In this video, I am going to talk about everything you need to know about shrimp breeding. So if you want to know how to breed shrimps, then this is the video for you. You will know everything that there is need to know. So without further ado, let's get to the video. The first thing you need to do is plan ahead. If you want to breed shrimps, then you need to do some planning from the very beginning, because if you keep shrimps in a community tank or with other tank mates, then the breeding project might not go that much successfully, because the other tank mates, in fact most of the tank mates, can go after the baby shrimps. I have seen even little tetras, rasboras, they go after the baby shrimps, and the baby shrimps aren't actually safe from any kind of tank mate, excluding only a few, like a couple of snails. But most of the tank mates are very dangerous for baby shrimps. So if you want to professionally breed shrimps, then from the very beginning, keep your shrimps in a very exclusive tank, only shrimp only tank, and not keep any kind of tank mates there. This will be my first advice, because it will help you out a lot in the long term. The next thing is you need to keep the shrimps in a larger tank, because I know that you can start out keeping shrimp in a 5-gallon tank. That's okay, but if you want to breed shrimps professionally, then soon when your shrimps start breeding, they will soon outgrow the tank, and soon you'll need to upgrade the tank. So why don't you get a bigger tank from the very beginning? And a big tank has lots of benefits too, like the water parameters will be more stable, and the shrimps will also have a larger area to go around, which will keep them more healthy. And also a larger tank means more water volume, so that the water parameters won't change drastically, and these drastic changes of water parameters are actually very deadly to shrimps. So my advice will be to get as much big tank as you can for shrimps, and in this way you will not have to think about upgrading the tank in the near future. Okay. And the next thing is, if you want to seriously breed shrimps for profits, then I will advise you to keep shrimps, keep only one species of shrimp in the tank, because if you keep many types of species like cherry shrimps, then crystal red shrimps, amano shrimps, ghost shrimps, if you keep all of them together, then there are chances of crossbreeding. Crossbreeding actually means different types of species of shrimps breeding, like a cherry shrimp with a crystal red shrimp, like that. Crossbreeding actually produces lower quality offspring, and that have a higher chances of dying. And crossbreeding isn't something you should do if you want to breed shrimps professionally. So if that's what you want, then just keep only one type of shrimp, don't keep multiple types. And if you are a beginner just starting out, then I will highly encourage you to keep cherry shrimps, because cherry shrimps are very beginner friendly, and they are a lot forgiving. They don't require much, they don't demand much. So as a beginner, even if you make some mistakes, that won't be the end of the world, and you will likely to have a higher chances of successful breeding of your shrimps. So that's my first tip: plan ahead. And by planning ahead, your chances of successful breeding will be much higher. The next thing you need to think about is the substrate, right? Now for shrimp keeping, substrates are mainly of two types: inert substrate and active substrate. I am briefly explaining the differences between two. Active substrates are substrates that can change the pH of the water. They actually lower down the pH. Active substrate is preferable for specific types of shrimps, like Caridina species shrimps. Those can be crystal shrimps, tiger shrimps, that kind of species. Inert substrate, on the other hand, don't change the pH of the water, and they don't do any kind of chemical reaction with the water. This type of substrate is preferable for new Caridina species shrimps like cherry shrimps. So you will have to select the substrate depending on what type of shrimp you want to breed. If you want to breed Neocaridina species, then go for an inert substrate, or if you want to breed Caridina species, then go for active substrate. Now for active substrate, I like Brightwell Rio Escuro. There are many different variants of this type of substrate. You can get any one you prefer. I think these are the very good substrates in terms of active substrate, and even Robert Lupton from Flip Aquatics recommend them, so you can clearly get them. In terms of inner substrate, there can be very cheap options. You can go with pool filter sand. They just cost only a couple of bucks, and you can get them from your nearest Home Depot. But I don't like the appearance of pool filter sand. If you can spend a few more bucks, I will highly recommend you to go for Eco Complete planted substrate, and that is a very good inner substrate, and my cherry shrimps love that substrate a lot. So that's all about substrate. The next thing is filter. Now in terms of filter, there are mainly three choices: matten filter, sponge filter, and hang on back filter. For breeding purposes or for any kind of shrimp only tank, I absolutely recommend matten filters, and I think they are the best option for keeping shrimps. Matten filters are not that common, so you might not know what a matten filter is. For your convenience, I will put up a picture of a matten filter anywhere on the screen now. As you can see, matten filters come with a large square piece of foam which you attach to one side of the tank, and there is a water pump involved with the matten filter. So what it does is the water pump creates a water circulation around the tank, and the water passes through the foam, which acts as a filter. This is the simple mechanism of matten filter. But what I like most about matten filter is it has a very large surface area. The foam has a very large surface area compared to like sponge filters or hang on back filters. As a result, the large surface area grows microorganism, biofilm, algae over it, which is a very good food source for baby shrimps as well as adult shrimps. That's why I like matten filter the most, and conveniently they are very cheap, right? So if you are serious about shrimp breeding and you don't have any other large tank mates in the aquarium, then I will seriously recommend you to go for matten filter. They are simply the best. Now if you don't find matten filter, then, or if you don't want to get matten filter, if you don't like it, then I will recommend you to go for a sponge filter. Now keep in mind that sponge filters will not be able to cope up with a high bioload. So if your tank has lots of other species, lots of other fishes, then the sponge filter might not be the good choice. But if you are only having a shrimp, if you're only having shrimp in the tank or a couple of other species, then yeah, go for a sponge filter. But when choosing a sponge filter, try to get as much big sponge filter as you can, because the bigger sponge filter is, the bigger the surface area of the foam will be, and the larger the foam, the larger the surface area, the more it can grow biofilm, microorganism, and all of that good stuff that shrimps love to eat. So that is all about sponge filter. And now if you are keeping other tank species like fishes with the shrimps, then you can go for a hang on back filter for a superior filtration. With hang on back filter, you can have mechanical filtration, biological filtration, as well as chemical filtration. But the thing is, they don't come in very cheap, so you will have to pay a little bit more than sponge filter or matten filter. But if you want, you can absolutely go for hang on back filters. But personally, as I have said, for shrimp only tank and for breeding shrimps, I just love matten filters, and I will recommend you to get one. Now matten filters can be a bit rare, so if you don't find matten filter in your area, then you can go to Flip Aquatics. They have matten filters in their store and they will ship them directly to your home, so that can be a good choice, right? The next topic is water or water sources. Now for shrimp keeping, you can get water sources. Yeah, there are basically two types of water sources: tap water and RO water. Now for keeping Neocardina species shrimps, tap water is okay, but for Cardina species shrimps, tap water is not okay. They are a little bit more picky. You need to get RO water. RO water means reverse osmosis water. This is just in plain English, this is just a water that doesn't have any kind of chemicals or nutrients, minerals in it. It is just plain H2O. Now if you decide to keep RO water, then you will need to mix something with it so that the shrimps can grow properly. Shrimps need minerals in the water, so that in RO water, as it doesn't have any kinds of minerals, we need to add some minerals externally. For this purpose, you will need to have shrimp minerals. This is an excellent shrimp salt that adds the required minerals in the water. You can get it very cheap from Amazon. Just get the shrimp mineral and mix the required amount to your water, and your shrimps will be absolutely fine. But if you are using tap water, there is no need to use the shrimp mineral. Tap water automatically includes minerals in it, so your shrimps won't need any extra mineral. But even if neocardinan species shrimps can breed in tap water finely, but if you can, I will recommend you to use RO water, because in my experience with RO water, the breeding experience was much more successful, and the offspring quality was a bit higher. So if you can, RO water is a good choice for breeding. Now, one of the most essential things you can have for shrimp breeding as well as shrimp keeping is a water test kit. As shrimps are very prone to water parameters, you need to continuously check those parameters to figure out if they are in the right range or not. Now I recommend API Master Water Test Kit, because with this kit you can measure absolutely everything within the tank water, like nitrate, nitrite, ammonia, pH, most of the things that we need to keep in check. So you can get the API Water Test Kit from Amazon absolutely cheap, and it will be a worthy investment for you. Now in terms of water parameters, you need to keep the water parameters in a favorable range for the shrimps. Now the favorable range can vary from species to species. Like for cherry shrimps, the water parameters can be the favorable TDS range can be 150 to 250 ppm, GH and KH can be 6 to 8 ppm, and the temperature can be about 65 to 75 degrees Fahrenheit. These are the more or less preferable range for cherry shrimps. But in terms of cardinal species shrimps like crystal shrimps, the water parameters will change, and they have a very different favorite range than cherry shrimps. So you will need to do your research ahead and keep the water parameters in favorable according to your shrimp species. And another thing is, if the water parameter is not in the ideal range, like if your pH is, let's say, 6.3, that won't be the end of the world. If it's off by a little bit, it's okay. But the thing you need to look for is consistency. The water parameters need to be consistent. Inconsistency leads to a lot of death in shrimps, and shrimps absolutely hate inconsistency. So if your shrimp tank temperature is 70 degrees Fahrenheit today and 80 degrees Fahrenheit tomorrow, your shrimps won't love it and it will affect their breeding. So you will need to ensure that the parameters are consistent. Even if they are not in the right range, they need to be consistent, and also try to keep them in the right range. Keeping the water parameters in the right range and consistent will help you a lot along the shrimp keeping way. It will not only make your shrimps breed faster and more quality offspring, it will also help your shrimps to live a very healthy and happy life. So this is very important for breeding shrimps. The next thing I want to talk about is tank mate. As I've already said, tank mates are not suitable for breeding shrimps. However, there are some tank mates that you can keep and they will actually help your shrimps. These are snails. Snails are actually relatively safe for keeping with shrimps. They don't harm the shrimps. But again, not all snails are this. There are actually a couple of snails that are absolutely shrimp safe, and you can keep them, like Malaysian trumpet snails, nerite snails, etc. These snails are actually beneficial for keeping with shrimps because, like in case of Malaysian trumpet snails, they digest the shrimp poop, and they also create a good ecological balance in the shrimp tank, which leads to a better environment in the shrimp tank. Also, the netted snails help to clean algae, so they are good additions to the shrimp tank. So if you want something extra than shrimps in the tank, then snails can be a good option. But keep in mind that not all snails are good. Like assassin snails can be bad for shrimps, because I have heard that assassin snails can go after the baby shrimps and kill them. So do your research. I love to keep Malaysian trumpet snails with my shrimps, and I have seen good result from it. The next thing I want to talk about is plants. Keep as much plants and moss as you can. The more plants and moss there is, the happier your shrimps will be, and they will breed more, and the offsprings will be of very higher quality. Plants, shrimps absolutely love plants in their tank because it resembles their natural environment in the wild, because shrimps love vegetation in the wild, and they live, especially they live with plants in the wild. So when you keep plants in the tank, shrimps actually find that a very safer environment for them, because when there is plants, the shrimp can hide there if there is any imminent danger to them. And also plants and moss helps to capture food particles and also grows biofilm over them, which the shrimps can eat all day long. So the thing is, the general rule of thumb is keep as much plant and moss as you can. At least keep a java moss in the tank and a few types of plants. If you're a beginner, you don't need to get the very expensive plants. Just go with normal plants, like you can try floating plants like duckweed, or normal other plants like Rotala rotundifolia or Rotala magneta. Any type of cheap plants will do. If you don't want to invest more money with plants, then don't get the ones that are very demanding, because some plants can be very demanding, and some plants need very high intense light to grow. So if you are not ready for that, you don't need to choose those plants. Just choose the ones that are very beginner friendly and doesn't require much, and your shrimps will be very happy with the plants around them. The next two things are driftwood and Indian almond leaves. Both are very good addition to the shrimp tank, and shrimps love those, as well as the baby shrimps will absolutely go crazy for them. The thing about Indian almond leaf is they have a very large surface area, so with time they grow biofilm over the surface area, and also the leaf starts to deteriorate, and the shrimps just eat those leaf pieces, and they eat the biofilm over the leaf, and it is actually very good for the shrimps. Also, Indian almond leaves release a type of tannin in the tank. This keeps the pH a bit lower, which the shrimps love. So overall, Indian almond leaf can be very good for your shrimp health, so you can absolutely keep one. There is no need to get crazy for them. Just keep one Indian almond leaf per 10, 15 or 20 gallon tank, and with one leaf can last about 1 month. So just get a couple of leaves. They don't cost much. Even if you can get them free, just take a look around your neighbor and see if there are any Indian almond trees. If there is, you are in a jackpot. So just get some leaves and they will last you about a year. Also, if you can get a chola wood, because chola woods are like they are the woody exoskeleton of the chola plant. They have very holes and crannies around their surface. Shrimps love to hide inside the chola wood. They also look very great. They enhances the natural appearance of the tank. So I love chola wood in my shrimp tank. This is not as important as keeping Indian almond leaves in the tank, but if you can certainly get one. They look very good and they are very cheap, so why don't, right? So these are my recommendations. You can get Indian almond leaves and chola woods in the shrimp tank. They will help with the shrimp breeding process, but they are not like a must. If you are in a budget today, you don't have to get them, but you can certainly get them in the future, so that your shrimps are a bit more happier, right? And the last thing I want to talk about is food. Food is the single-handedly most important thing for breeding shrimps. It is also very important for the babies too. If the mother shrimps don't get the nutrients they need, then the breeding process will not be that much successful. The babies will not be that much qualityful, and the breeding success rate will be lower. So you need to ensure that you are feeding them the right food and they are getting the right nutrients. Okay. Now, in terms of food, there are many choices, and there are many good options in the market. Personally, I like Vector AE for my shrimp tanks. I have already talked about it a lot in my channel. Vector AE is cheap, but it is a very good and nutrient food option for the shrimps. It comes in a powdered form. So when you scoop it over to the tank, the food particles spread throughout the whole tank, and the baby shrimps can eat it safely and nicely because they don't have to compete with the adult shrimps, and there is no food aggression in the tank. So that's why I like Vector AE, and I have seen much higher breeding success rate with Vector AE. But if you want, you can check out some other great food options like shrimp mineral, shrimp dinner, and there are something also like shrimp lollies, then shrimp king mineral. All of these are very good options for shrimps. You can choose either of them, whichever works for you. But I absolutely love Vector AE, and I will recommend you to get it and see if your shrimps prefer it, because mine go crazy for that. Also, Vector AE is very good for the babies because the babies don't have to compete with the adults, and they can get the nutrients they need to grow properly. So these are the things you need to keep in mind for breeding shrimps successfully. I have written a post about shrimp breeding where I have dived much more in details and talked about everything I know about shrimp breeding. So if you want to know more about everything I have talked in this video, and if you want to know about the products that I recommend, the resources I recommend for you to check out for knowing more about shrimp breeding, then please check out my article. I have explained everything I know about shrimp breeding there, and I believe it will be a very good resource for you. I will put the link of the article in the description box below so that you can check it out right now. So do that now. Take care.